Hello, I am Betty Morgan. I'm Vice President for Business Development at the Valdosta Loan Chamber. Today I have with me Walt Moore. Good morning, Walt. The Area Director for the Valdosta State University Small Business Development Center. I'm proud to say that SBDC and the Seed Center have had a strong partnership for many years. And Walt, I have to say now that I am so proud to have you in my corner as we attempt to navigate the complexity of these SBA's CARE Act. At the end of this presentation today, Walt will share his contact information so that you have any question, you'll be able to go directly to Walt. I want to thank again you for being our sponsor, and thank you so much for coming on to this meeting with us. Okay, Walt, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Betty, and thank you for allowing us this opportunity to reach out to small businesses. It's been a scary time for a lot of people. We've been working with a lot of businesses for the past 2.5 weeks. A lot of the information that's coming in has been changing daily, so we're trying to stay on top of that so we can make sure we get the right information to the business owners. Today, I wanted to kind of go over some of the SBA disaster loans and assistance that are available for small businesses. And there's basically 3 that I want to cover today that I think would fit with our businesses in Lowndes County and the surrounding counties. So I'm going to share something and we'll discuss it. Okay, do you see that?
We do.
All right. Okay, so, and I'm going to email this to Lauren and Betty as well, so they can email it out, or you can reach out to us as well. And again, this is the term we're using is fluid. Things are changing, or as we translate the language in the CARES Act, we're finding out more information. So as of today or yesterday, this is what we've got. And I will kind of just go through each one of them. And then as Betty was saying, if there's any questions you got, I'm going to share my contact information. You kind of get the answers that you need. All right, so the Corona Aid, Relief, and Economical Security, which is called the CARES Act, was signed into law on March the 27th, and it allows $349 billion to help small businesses. And the key here is to keep workers employed. So this is a lot of the reason that this law is implemented is to ensure that workers are staying employed and not being laid off. And you'll see that there's a lot of incentives in this package to keep the employers funded so they can keep employers. Okay, so the first one is the 7A loan repayment relief. So this is for people who currently have a 7A SBA loan. And this has nothing to do with going and applying for disaster. If you currently have an SBA loan through a bank, the CARES Act will help make principal, interest, and any associated fee payments on that loan up to 6 months. So if you look at the first bullet point, existing borrowers that are not on deferment, they're making their regular scheduled payments, will get a payment from the SBA on that loan for 6 months, beginning with the next payment, which is probably yesterday, April the 1st, depending on when your payment schedule is. If you're on deferment, which is the second line, once that deferment ends, then the repayment or payment relief program will kick in. New borrowers, that first payment due on the loan will be started being serviced by the SBA for up to 6 months. So we had a question yesterday on the conference call, and to our understanding, this is something that you don't have to go and apply for or fill out anything. This should take effect immediately once the ball's rolling on the CARES Act. Our kind of disclaimer here is to talk to your loan officer. So if you've got an SBA loan, 7A loan, go to that lender that you got the loan with and inquire about this payment relief. And again, there may be something internally from the bank that you need to fill out, but it's our understanding that there's nothing the borrower has to do. But just as a disclaimer, go talk to your loan officer, inquire on the 7A loan payment relief, and see if there's anything you need to do to take advantage of this. So 6 months of payment is awesome. You know, that's going to help a business, especially if it's something they're having to service and now they're struggling with making that loan payment. So 7A loan payment relief. Talk to your loan officer and inquire on it if you have an existing 7A SBA loan. Okay, the next one is the economical injury disaster loan. So this was one of the first things that came to everybody's attention, I guess a couple of weeks ago, when the president was discussing the SBA helping with assistance. So this is the economical injury disaster loan. And 2 weeks ago, we had a lot of issues with the website. So clients and banks were calling us. They would log into the website, they would freeze up, get kicked out, and it was just a disaster. People were struggling, they were having anxiety about everything that's going on, and then when they go to apply for the assistance, they're getting kicked out. So the SBA, over the weekend, this past weekend, they went and overhauled the website, and now they've made it a more streamlined process. And I'm going to talk about this one first, but the one just below it, the advanced, kind of goes hand in hand with this. But let me tell you what the economical injury disaster loan is first. All right, so this is anywhere from $25,000 up to $2 million loan. $25,000 or less can be unsecured. Anything over $25,000, SBA is wanting to seek collateral or lien on assets or anything they can to secure that money. If you have a lien already on an asset, the SBA has said they're willing to go for a second or third, but they're going to need collateral for anything over $25,000. The term on the loan can go out to 30 years. Basically what we've been told is once you apply for this loan and you've submitted it, an SBA representative will contact the borrower and discuss the loan amount request and then the term. And their whole idea of this is to get a manageable payment. So they don't want to put it on 2 years if the payment's going to be sky high. They're going to try to work with it to get a manageable payment for the business. This loan here is directly through the SBA. So you don't go to a bank for the economical injury disaster loan. You apply directly online through SBA. And I will, when I pop up my contact information at the end of this, I will share with y'all that website as well. But I can tell it to you now. It's COVID-19, so COVID, COVID 19 relief.sba.gov. If you go to sba.gov, you can find your way there as well. It's pretty easy. They've got their homepage with that. The interest rate here is going to be 3.75%, and they will defer your first monthly payment out to 12 months or a year. So if you got the loan today, April the 2nd, 2021 will be your first payment. So this is a cash flow working capital loan. So with this loan, you're not allowed to go and consolidate debt or buy equipment. This is, again, to give business cash to keep employees employed and to keep the business operating. And I want you to remember that, because when I get to the next one, I want you to remember that this is for working capital. So if you're saying I need my next 2 months payroll is $60,000, and you borrow this, you apply for this EIDL loan, and you get $60,000 for working capital to pay employees, that's what it's for. It's for working capital, overhead, utilities, rent, things of that nature. So working capital loan, the advantage of this is your low rate, and you'll never see working capital loans out for 30 years. You know, typically at a bank, that's a 12-month loan. But here the SBA is wanting to expand it so you can have a manageable payment. All right, and then when you go to the economical injury disaster loan advance. Okay, so after the website was overhauled, this was included. So now when you apply for the loan, this is one of the questions. I think this is the first steps you've got to go through. There's a box on there that asks you, would you want an advancement of up to $10,000? And what we've been finding with other clients, this keyword here is up to $10,000. So when you go out there, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get $10,000 when you click the box. It's going to be based off of your revenue and your payroll cost, and a percentage of that will be included or decided on what amount of that advancement you get. So if you're making $40,000 a year with your business, I wouldn't foresee you getting the full $10,000 versus a company that's doing $1.5 million. So there is a formula they're doing there to determine how much of that $10,000 you'll get as an advancement. We've been told that this money here is a grant. It will not have to be paid back. This advanced cash is a grant in a sense, and the borrower will not have to pay it back. Nor will they receive a 1099 next year saying they've received this income and they have to pay taxes on it. So that's a great advantage for the borrower, and something I think would be wise to take advantage of if you need it. Same website, when you go to apply for the EIDL loan, this will be a section and it'll ask you if you want to receive this. It can be used to provide paid sick leave, maintain payroll, meet increased production costs due to supply chain distributors, or pay business obligations, including debt, rent, and mortgage payments. So all this information is going to come from your 2019 taxes. So I've had a lot of clients that, if they're a sole proprietor, they may have not filed taxes yet. And I think the government extended that deadline into June now. So, if you're wanting to apply for this, you need to get your 2019 tax returns and 2018 as well. But those numbers and that formula is going to come from what you itemized or showed on your tax returns for last year. So we can't just come up with fictitious numbers there. It has to be, and just a little insight here on that. I think it's important. This is some of my consulting coming out, but when when you're doing your taxes, you kind of find yourself in a catch-22. We have the lead to lower our net income as much as possible through the laws we have in our tax law. But if you're not recording everything that you should, or you're recording too much, with times like this, anytime when you go and apply for a loan at a bank, and you've been showing a loss every year, and in reality, you've been making good money, this affects your ability. These loans are not guaranteed. You have to qualify for them. So there are, just like any other bank, they're looking at your credit score, they're looking at your tax returns. So it's always important that when you do your taxes, obviously think of lowering your net income so you don't have to pay as much taxes, but show accurate numbers and show the truth. If you have a good year, then report that and reflect it. All right, so the advance is kind of in with the economical injury disaster loan, but this is kind of a streamlined process. We told that once you click on that, and again, this is just what we're being told, that you can have that advancement up to within 3 days. The disaster loan itself, the turnaround time, is, we've been told, anywhere from 20 to 25 days. As you can imagine, just like Lowndes County, every county in the United States is applying for this loan that's in business. So SBA is overwhelmed. They've been hiring extra people to help, but go ahead and apply. If this is something that interests you, apply, get in line. That way, if the money runs out, you're in line before it does. So something to do if it applies to you. Okay, and then here's probably the most popular one that we've had a lot of questions about, and we're still learning as we go. But this was the PPP, or Payroll Protection Program, that was included in the CARES Act. So this is a traditional SBA 7A loan, and it guarantees up to 100% of the loan. So this loan is not one directly through the SBA. If you want to apply for this loan, you need to go to a preferred SBA lender or an approved SBA lender in your region. I don't want to refer particular lenders over the other, but there are preferred lenders in Valdosta, and we have a list that I'll send Betty as well. This is over the whole state, but Betty can email that out to you as well to show you some of the approved lenders. Real fast, the difference between preferred and certified. So there's banks out there now that are not approved SBA lenders, and they are getting overwhelmed with calls from borrowers asking about this 7A loan. So the banks are scrambling, trying to get approved as SBA lenders, and I'm afraid that's going to be a long process, especially the way SBA is overwhelmed now. So you probably want to find a preferred lender. Preferred means they have a great relationship with SBA. They've done a lot of loans in the past. SBA basically gives them free range to do the loan in-house. If that bank approves it, they can send it to SBA for approval. So as far as efficiency, turnaround time, these preferred lenders are probably going to be your best bet. Certified lenders, they're approved SBA lenders. They just do less SBA loans than the preferred lenders. So, you know, there's going to be I hope that the certified lenders are on top of this as well and will be able to service you just like the preferred. But that's the difference. I wanted to give you the definitions on those. And we've got both certified and preferred lenders here in Valdosta that can help you. So if this is something, as I go through it, if you find this interesting or it applies to you, then your first next step needs to be going to talk to your lender. If you're happy with the bank you've got, you love your loan officer, they know your business well, go to them. And your first question is, you know, are y'all an approved SBA lender? And then, you know, stay with that bank if you're happy with them and try this process. Okay, so the loan payments will be deferred for a minimum of 6 months and up to 12 months, similar to the disaster loan. So when you get this loan, you know, immediately you're not going to have to start servicing it with a monthly payment. The interest, so here this is something we found out yesterday. In the law, it says interest will not exceed 4% and terms will not exceed 10 years. Well, I'm assuming it's the Treasury Department or maybe it's SBA, but they have set this now. The loan term will not exceed 2 years and your rate is fixed at 0.5%. So not even a 1%, it's 0.5% for 2 years. So some things to think about there. That rate is phenomenal. I don't know of anywhere, there's nowhere in the world right now that you can get that type of rate, 0.5% on a loan. 2 years is short. So, and this is stuff that the loan officer is going to go through. This is just my brain, but you need to keep that in mind. When you have a loan that's shorter term, your rates or your payments are going to go up. So look at this and make sure that this payment, even though you're going to be deferred 6 to 12 months, this payment is something that you can afford. Both the PPP and the disaster loan is cash flow based. So they're looking at your cash flow to ensure that you can make this payment. All right, to be eligible, you have to be a small business. So that means you had to file your taxes as a small business. So that can be any business structure. You can be a sole proprietor, meaning you're doing a DBA, you're filing under your Social Security, but you have a Schedule C showing your business revenue and business expense. It can be for LLCs, partnerships, corporations. So any business structure, as long as you're in business, would qualify. The traditional definition of small business is 499 employees or less. And SBA has kind of extended that up to 1,500 employees, depending on the sector, as certain sectors are based on revenue. So a lot of that was franchise owners that own, several franchise locations. But if you combined all of them together, they're over that 500 mark. So they kind of expanding this a little bit to ensure restaurants are being hit hard as long as other industries, but they're wanting to try to help everybody here as much as possible. Self-employed and independent contractors also would qualify. So, and there I could give you different examples, but if you're an independent contractor, say it's in construction, and you 1099 out a lot of your work, you would still qualify as a small business here. All right, so the regulatory streamlining. Traditionally, when you apply for an SBA loan, there is a policy in there that says that no one else would give you a loan. They're waiving that for this case. So, obviously, with the rate and terms, you would want to get a loan anywhere else. You wouldn't want to get a loan at 5% or 3-year term when you've got a 0.5% interest rate. So they've waived that, no credit elsewhere. No personal guarantee or collateral is required for this loan. So again, this is a working capital loan, 2 years. It's there to help cover the payroll, help to cover rent, utilities, and debt payments. So there's no personal guarantee or collateral required, which is huge. That's enormous. Now, most of the time, those 2 areas right there is, in the past, before all this happened, this is where a lot of our clients get turned down because they don't have efficient collateral to secure the loan. And then no additional fees will be applied to the loan. Now, I'm hearing that, and it may be here on down, but the bank will get a fee, originating fee, loan closing fee, but all the SBA fees have been waived. So if that's something you're concerned about, talk to your bank and ask what their closing costs are and what would that be. Sorry. These loans will go up to $10 million, and the loan amount is based on recent payroll cost, compensation paid to individuals, including the self-employed. Compensation in excess of $100,000 a year to an individual is excluded. All right, so up to $10 million, that's got to be a very big company that needs $10 million for a 1-year cost. But again, if you get $10 million, you've got to think back. You're not going to qualify for it if you don't have those costs, first of all. But if you did qualify for it, you've got $10 million to pay back over a 2-year period. So that's a pretty hefty loan payment. And the compensation in excess of $100,000 a year, I want to go over that a little more below, but it's not going to be included in the loan request. So when they're looking at your 2019 financials, anybody that made over $100,000, that amount will be taken out of what you could apply for. So usually you may see that with bigger companies that has supervisors or managers. If they make over $100,000 a year, they will not be included in that compensation. We work with a lot of small businesses that don't pay themselves. So say it's a 2-3 man show, they're paying their employees and they may take owner draws occasionally, whenever they feel that it's healthy to do that. We've been told that those owner draws can be included in the compensation. But again, that's something that you have to have recorded in your tax returns. All right, the business must certify the loan will be used to retain workers, maintain payroll, make mortgage or lease payments, and pay utilities. All right, so this is the loan, why it's so popular. This loan has been has an option in there for debt forgiveness. All right, so we're working on a spreadsheet now with one of our consultants in our Gwinnett area has created a spreadsheet. He's studied this whole bill, the law, and he's made a spreadsheet. And this is probably won't look like our spreadsheet, but the banks will have something similar. And based on your 2019 financials, you'll put in these costs, the 12-month cost for your labor. You'll put in your 12-month cost for lease or rent, 12-month cost for utilities, whatever you can apply for. And then there's a formula in that, and then it's going to give you a max loan amount that you can apply for. And it's going to be based off of those 2019 numbers. So you plug those in, and it's going to say, all right, Walt, you can apply for $300,000 based off of what you've entered. Then out of that $300,000, they will walk through another formula that shows you what percentage of that can you be forgiven for, meaning it's it's forgiven. You're not going to receive a 1099 again saying that this is money that you've been receiving. If you're able to forgive 150,000 out of that 400,000, that's money that's just gone. So what that does, and that formula is rather intense and confusing to me at some cases, but we're figuring it out. But the whole point of this for the loan forgiveness part is to ensure that the employer maintains their employees. They want to make sure that you're not laying people off. So if you're in an industry and we've got them that's laid off 100% of their employees because they just don't have the business there and they don't have the cash to pay them, then this debt forgiveness part is probably not going to be your cup of tea. This is for people that have, in the example we went through, they had 25 employees, they've had to lay off 5, but they're still maintaining 20 employees. So for that debt forgiveness part, you know, that number of 20 is what's going to be looked at. All right, so how do they figure out what should be forgiven? So right now, the formula says 8 weeks or 2.5. So from the day you close the loan, so let's say I got $400,000, the next 8 weeks of payroll, the next 8 weeks of my rent and utilities is the portion that I'll be able to forgive. So if I had $1,000 a month, I'll do this easy because I don't have a calculator by me. But if I had $1,000 a month in payroll, when I close the loan today on April the 2nd, the next 8 weeks, so that would be $8,000 of payroll now I would be able to take out of that loan. Same thing with rent and utilities. Now, if 2019 or January of 2020, I had 30 employees, but right now I only have
It's okay.
I only have 18, then that formula reduces what I can forgive on my debt. So that's important. And again, this was designed to help keep employees with a job, and this is the incentive to the owner to do that. Okay, loans may be forgiven up to the amount equal eligible payroll, mortgage, interest, rent, utility cost incurred during the 8-week period starting from the loan origination. And again, if you're paying anybody over $100,000, that number is not included for the loan request amount or for the debt forgiveness side. So when if you want to get a pencil and piece of paper and kind of figure out what your 8-week costs are for labor, if anybody in that organization is making over $100,000, that's not going to be included in the debt forgiveness. Loan forgiveness is reduced by layoffs or pay reduction in excess of 25%, and loan forgiveness is not treated as taxable income. Meaning when you've been able to forgive this money, IRS is not going to send you something next year saying you was able to forgive $40,000 in debt, you need to pay taxes on it. So this is another great incentive there. So this is a loan. Again, I've had clients yesterday up to yesterday afternoon go to preferred SBA lenders in Valdosta, and the loan officers have told them we're aware of this loan. Our board and our organization is still trying to figure out the language in it. So maybe next week we'll have something available. We've been told from SBA that there's banks that should be starting to process some of these loans as early as tomorrow. But again, I feel the bank's pain, and they want to make sure they understand everything in the law accurately before they start making loans. So I know they're on top of it. I'm certain of that. They're trying to figure out what's all in the act. So go ahead, if just like our other clients, you have that bank, start that conversation with them. It's 349, I forgot the number, 349 billion. So that's a big number to you and I. But when you look across the country and every business applying for this loan, that money will go fast. So go ahead and start that conversation with your loan officer and tell them this is something you're interested in. Gather your tax returns, gather your financial statements, and once that bank is ready, then start your process. So best case scenario, you'll have some of the larger banks as early as tomorrow processing some of these loans. And if not, by next week, beginning next week or middle of next week, they'll be on board with it. So very popular loan, the PPP something that most people are looking at. Here's something to keep in mind. So let's say you go and apply for the EIDL loan straight through the SBA, and because we've had clients in the past 2 weeks has already been applying for this, and before this PPP ever came out. And during that disaster loan, the loan request was for payroll, rent, and utilities. And you got that disaster loan. Then you come and apply for the PPP. You're not allowed to apply for the PPP loan for the same stuff. If you will, you won't get forgiven for it. So in other words, you can't get the disaster loan and then apply for the PPP loan and get debt forgiveness for payroll, rent, and utilities. So you kind of have to make a choice. You know, and I hate to stick my neck out there and say which one is better than the other. It's really going to be dependent on you as a business owner and what position or what industry you're in. If you're not heavy in labor, you don't have a lot of employees, then you're not going to benefit a lot out of this PPP loan because you're not going to have a lot of debt forgiveness from it. Therefore, that disaster loan may be a better fit for you. But I don't want to, I'd be happy to talk to people individually and let's talk about what your business is, and ultimately that's going to be your decision. Even when I talk to clients now, we bounce ideas off each other, but as a business owner, that's a decision you're going to have to make. But those are the two popular loan programs that's out there right now. But you can't get both of them for the same reason. So, for example, let's say that you're a business with a lot of employees and you have a lot of inventory. You sell a product. So maybe your disaster loan can help supply or replenish some of your inventory, and then your PPP loan may be for your labor and overhead. But you can't get both loans for the same reason. And SBA is going to, when you apply for the disaster loan, they're going to walk through with you. I don't believe there's a place on there to put a loan amount request, unless they just recently changed it. They're going to ask you how much you think you've lost in the past 2 weeks, but there's not a spot on there that says how much do you want to request. When you submit your application, then an SBA representative will reach out to you and they'll discuss that loan amount. So when you're talking to them and you tell them I need it for payroll, I got to keep people on, and you get that through the disaster loan, you will not qualify for debt forgiveness under the PPP. So you kind of need to make a decision there. Things in the past week we were telling people was to apply for both of them. If you're unsure, apply for both of them. You don't have to take either one of them, but once you've been approved for both, you can kind of weigh your options. Talk to your loan officer. Look at what SBA's allowing you in the disaster loan. And then when you see numbers, real numbers, and can work out scenarios, you can see which one is best for you. All right, so that is the loan forgiveness. And there is, again, this section out here at the bottom that talks about the forgiveness part. My advice to you there is, because in most cases, 100% of that loan request amount that you get approved for is not going to be forgiven. So if I got $400,000, maybe 260 of it's going to be forgiven, and the rest I've got to pay back in 2 years. So, that's the things that I've seen this my whole life working in banks, working as a business consultant. Sometimes ignoring our situation now, we kind of, when we go to sign loan documents and we know we've been approved for something, just knowing we've been approved and we see that dollar amount and then everything else kind of goes out the back of our head. This is something where you need to just sit down and be rational about it and think which one of these is best for me. What's going to benefit me the best? I don't know of any loan out there that's better than 0.5% interest rate. So, look at that. And even if you I had a client ask me, well, can I apply for this PPP loan, but only get the amount that I can be forgiven for? And, I would think so. If you did the math and you found out based on that formula, what exactly can I be forgiven for, and you only accept that amount, then I guess in theory you could. But if you're getting an extra $100,000 at 0.5% interest rate, just if you don't need it right now, put it in a savings account. And then we don't know where this is going. You may need it in the future, in the next 2 months. But if you don't, then just take them back off the loan, if you didn't. But you're not going to get money at a 0.5% interest rate anywhere. So just keep that in mind. And then keep in mind that whatever you've been forgiven for from that debt and that remaining balance that you have, whatever it is, that you can service that loan payment for the next 2 years. And 2 years is a short term, so that payment may be hefty depending on the size of the loan. So those are things that, and I'm certain that that loan officer, whoever you're dealing with, is going to discuss that with you. And I'd be happy to help you if needed as well. But that's something that you need to be mindful of when you do this. All right, and then our last little sheet here is just a comparison of all of them. And again, we'll email this out to everyone, but this kind of just goes over everything I've just said in a little comparison sheet. So you got your disaster loan and the advance that comes with that if you apply for the EIDL loan. And something I forgot to mention there, if you apply for the EIDL loan, and let's say that you were getting $20,000 for inventory, and you check the box to get this advancement, and you got your money for inventory, you got a $10,000 advance, then you go and apply for the PPP loan. During that debt forgiveness formula, whatever money you took in advance from this EIDL loan will be subtracted from that debt forgiveness. So in theory, if you were able to forgive $100,000 of the loan, but you took a $10,000 advance, you'll now only be able to do $90,000 in debt forgiveness on that PPP loan. So you're not being able to double dip, in other words. All right, and let me see if I can pull this up. I don't know where we are in time, but this is my contact information. We are not in our office. We're at VSU North Campus in Thaxton Hall. But as you can imagine, we're all working from home now. You can call our phone number, 229-245-3738. We're checking that twice, 3 times a day. But if you want a quicker turnaround time, email me, and I'll have that on my computer all day so I can see that. And we can try to walk you through this and help you with it. The disaster loan, the EIDL loan, so if you're looking for disaster or that $10,000 advance, here's the website for it. And again, if you mistype that or anything, just go to sba.gov. You'll see tons of tabs to click on, or you'll see a tab on there for disaster relief. If you click on it, it'll carry you through to this site. So that's stuff to consider. Think about the 3 loans or the 3 things that's out there available. The debt payment relief. Let me go back and recap if I can find it. So if you currently have an SBA loan existing, you need to talk to your loan officer about the loan payment relief. Then you got your 2 disaster loans, EIDL, economical injury disaster. You got the advance that comes with it. And then you've got your PPP loan, which is your debt forgiveness. My advice to you is if you're a small business and you're listening to this today and this interests you, you need to go talk to your loan officer as soon as possible. Find out if they're an SBA lender and are they willing to do the SBA loans. And then, right now they may tell you we're still waiting on our higher ups to give us more information, but we were told by SBA that there's some of the larger banks saying as early as tomorrow they should start processing applications, and then some of the other banks probably into next week. But you need to go and talk to your loan officer. If there's stuff when you talk to that loan officer that you need help with, maybe they need projections or they need a personal financial statement, that's where we can step in and help you compile that stuff. But get your tax returns. If you have an accountant, they probably already have that information for you. But go talk to your loan officer. That's the best advice I can give you right now. And then reach out to us and Betty if you have questions on, the process, or you need help filling something out. Then that's what we're here for. Reach out to us. I can thank Betty for doing this. It speaks volumes of her and the chamber and the SEEDS program. We all are in this together. We know that a lot of you guys are struggling. You're uncertain about the future, but kudos to Betty for being proactive and putting this together so we can reach the small business in our county.
Thank you so much, Walt. I can't even begin to tell you how much I know this is helping our business community right now. And again, I want to thank you for being so patient and coming on with me too and trying to get this finished up today. I want to thank again TH Boyd Communications for helping us with this, sponsoring it also, and also Ascend Inbound Marketing, who will be with us tomorrow. Thank you again, and if anyone needs Walt, please contact him. If you need something from me, and we will put this on our website, we will have all of his documents there as well. And we will send an e-blast out to the chamber membership today with this information. So thank you, Walt.
Thank you, Betty.